Next, I'd like to look at some R commands that are particularly common and useful when you're running simulations, but are also very useful in lots of other situations. The first command I want to talk about is the sample command. The sample command allows you to draw a set of values from some vector. So suppose I have a vector called vec1, and I just made this up. It consists of this set of numbers here. I've got 7 numbers here. Suppose I want to draw 3 of these 7 numbers, as if these 7 numbers had been placed in a hat, and I'm going to draw 3. This command right here will do that. The command is called sample, and the function has 3 arguments. The first argument is the name of the vector. If I'd wanted to, instead of writing vec1 here, I could have just pasted in the vector itself into this first argument. The first argument is the vector of things we're going to draw from. The second argument is the number of elements we'd like to draw, so I'm going to draw 3. And this third argument, replace equals false, tells us as we draw 3 numbers from a hat containing 7 numbers, let's not put them back each time. So if I draw a 56, then the next number cannot be a 56. So I'm going to run this line. And you'll see in the console I drew the numbers 3, 16, and 5. If I run it again, this time I got 30, 4, and 6. Each time I run this command, I'm going to get a different set of numbers. There are other options. If I had let replace equals true, now every time I draw, say, a 56, I'm going to put it back in, and so it's possible that 2 or 3 of the numbers I draw are actually going to be the same as each other. So let's see, this time I drew 30, 16, and 4. Now I drew 5, 3, and 5. The 5 happened twice only because I said replace equals true. That would not have been possible if I had said replace equals false. If you don't specify replace, the default is replace equals false. Let me show you how I know that. If I look at the help page for sample, and I look at this line that says usage, it's telling you what the arguments are. The first argument is x, and if I look down here, it says that's a vector of 1 or more elements from which to choose. The second argument is size. If I look down here, that says it's a non-negative number telling me how many items to choose. That's what we just said. And the third argument is replace, and if I read down here, it says should sampling be with replacement. But notice that in this usage line, it says replace equals false. That's telling me that the argument replace has a default. And so if I want to, when I run this command, I can not say anything about replace. I cannot mention replace, and by default it'll be set equal to false. So therefore, if I do this and leave it like that, that's the same as if I had said replace equals false, and I can run that command for 56, 3. If I leave off the second argument, just say sample vec1, R is going to assume that I want to draw all the same numbers out of a hat. In other words, I want to put these 7 numbers into a hat and draw the same 7 numbers back out again. Why would you do that? Well, it's a way to reorder the numbers, and sometimes that's useful if you want to mix up the order of the elements in your vector. So here I've done that. It gave me back the same 7 numbers, but in a different order. Another thing to note, suppose I did this. I gave just the number 10, and I said I want to sample 1 number from that. You might think that R would just sample 1 element from a hat containing the number 10 in it, so this would have to be 10. That's actually not what happens. There I got a 10, but when I ran it again, I got a 4. Why? If you give just 1 number as the first argument of sample, what R is going to do is assume you mean the numbers from 1 to 10. That's actually kind of an annoying default. That's gotten me into trouble a few times, where I've given it a vector that happened to have 1 element, and instead of having that element be the only element in the hat, I decided I wanted the numbers from 1 to that number, but that's something that's good to be aware of.